All right, thinkers. Today you should be working on converting fractions to decimals and percents and back and forth because those are all parts, those are all ways to name when we have part of a whole. So when I see 1/5 here, I know that I need it to be in tenths or hundredths, or I could do my division, which is a go-to for any fraction that I have. So I could think of it as 1/5, 1 divided into 5 parts. So do it like this. Put the decimal. And then that would be 2. So it would be 2/10 or 2 out of 10. Or I could think of it as an equivalent fraction since I have tenths down here, and that would help me to get to decimals and percents. So how many groups of 5 did it take me to get to 10? Times 2. Whatever I do to the bottom, I need to do the top, times 2. 2/10. So I would then shade in 2 out of 10 pieces. If I wanted this as a decimal, 2/10 would be 0.2. It would also be 2 out of 10 pieces. When I move into the percent world, I no longer want it out of tenths because percents are always out of 100. Remember, percent. Per, for every. Cent, century, centipede. Cents, 100. So percents are out of 100. So 2/10 looked at as hundredths would be 20 hundredths. Therefore, this would be 20%. Hopefully that was pretty simple for you. Now, when we have 87%, that means we have 87 out of 100. So I'm going to be a lazy mathematician here, and I'm going to color in quickly 8 of them. 8 sticks, 80, and then 7 more. 87 is close to 100, so that makes sense that it would be almost all of my picture that is shaded in. 87% means 87 hundredths, so that means as a decimal that would be 87 hundredths. So I'm going to do the same thing again, color in most of it quickly, and then 7 more to have my 87 hundredths. And then if I'm thinking of it as a fraction, how many pieces out of the whole? The part would be 87. The whole would be 100. 87 hundredths. So all of that in there. And 7 more. There we go. 87 hundredths, 87 hundredths, 87%, 87 out of 100. All names for this amount of our whole, this part of our whole. This is 34 hundredths, which tells me that's 34 of these blocks here. So 34 hundredths would be the same as 34 out of 100 total pieces. So 3 sticks. Remember, it is okay to not simplify. We just need an equivalent ratio. Of course, if you can simplify, that shows me another level of understanding. So you're welcome to, but it is not necessary to get the point correct. And then to get our percents, that we want percents to be out of 100. So 34 out of 100 means 34%. That makes sense because it's less than half, so that makes sense that it's less than 50%. And then down here we have 18/25, but I see hundredths here. I can't take 25 to 10 very easily, so I'm going to make it in out of 100. I could also do my division problem like this, drop it into the doghouse. However, that would take me a lot of time. I would prefer to multiply, and I can make the connection of 25 cents is 4 quarters to get to 100 cents. So 25 times 4 equals 100. So all I need to do is 18 times 4. So I would do that over here on the side. 4 times 8 is 32. Carry the 3. 4 times 1 is 4, plus 3 is 7. So that means 72 hundredths. If I think about that, that makes sense because half of 26 would be 13. So this is more than half. So I need it to be more than 50 out of 100. So that feels pretty reasonable to me. Here's my 70, and then 2 more. If I have 72 hundredths, that means I have 72 hundredths, which means I have 7 of these. That would be 70. And then 2 more. And if I have 72 hundredths, that's already out of 100, which makes my percent pretty simple to be 72%. So there are my conversions. Now on the test, these visuals will not be here, but that is what you should be doing in your mind's eye when you see these decimals and these fractions and these percents. You should be thinking 20%, almost none, 80%, almost all. That's why if you have 8% and it's over here, 8 out of 10, that's almost all. How could we all of a sudden have 8% and have fewer? So you want to be making those connections and really thinking through these numbers, not just putting something down to put something down. All right, so that's our conversions. That should be pretty easily. So let's head to this problem here. The Sparkling House Cleaning Company has cleaned 28 houses this week. If the number represents 40% of the total number of houses the company is contracted to clean, how many total houses will the company, clean by the end of the week? So that tells me I want to focus on my parts compared to my wholes and my percents that I know are always out of 100. So in this case, that's 40% of the total. So I'm looking for this whole because we want the total. What I know is the part is 28, which is also the 40 out of 100%. So in this case, I can't really think of anything that would get me from 28 to 40 easily. So I'm going to do the tape diagram method here, where I plug in 0 to 100, 0 houses cleaned. This is what I'm trying to find out is the total. What I know is I need 40%, so I would ask myself, what should I break this into so that I can get 40%? And I would go by 20s, so 20, 40, 60, 80, 100 means I need to break this into 5 pieces. So here's 20%, 40%, 60, 80, 100. So 40% would be 28 houses. So what would be halfway between 0 and 28? That would be 14. So that tells me that each of these is going up by 14. So I would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 groups of 14, or I could do 14, 28, 28 plus 14 more, fill it in there. For me, it would be easiest to multiply. So I'm going to do 5 groups of 14. 5 times 4 is 20. 5 times 1 is 5 plus 2 more. Tells me that they would have 70 houses. Since it's an FDOL, tomorrow I might go ahead and do it both ways. Okay, I think it's 70, but let's go ahead and do 28 plus 14. 8 plus 4 would give me 12. Carry the 1. That's 42. 42 plus 14 would be 56. And then 56 plus 14 gives me 70. So that's 2 ways that I got 70. So I feel pretty confident that how many total houses will the company clean by the end of the week? 70 houses. Remember to pull out your answers, not just leave it in here, because I don't know if you think the answer is this. So you've got to pull out and really make sure that you answer the question. In our homework, I noticed some people were saying percents here when they were asking how many total houses. Well, that wouldn't make sense to give me a percent there. So make sure that you are answering those questions accurately. All right, let's look at number 2. Joshua delivered 30 beehives. Wow, I really had trouble typing. Beehives to the local fruit farm. If the farmer has paid to use 5% of the total number of Joshua's hives, how many hives does Joshua have in all? All right, so that tells me that this 30 is a part. 5% is our percentage, obviously. So I am looking for, again, in all, the total amount. So if 30 is 5%, I could think about how many 5% are in 100. So that would be 5 times 20 would give me 100. So that means he has 20 groups of 30. So I could do 20 times 30. 2 zeros in my question, 2 zeros in my answer, 1 basic fact. That means he has 600 beehives. I can also do it like this, where I know I need to go 0 to 100. I'm looking for the total. I know 5%, so I'm going to cut this into 20s. So it's 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60, 65, 70, 75, 80, 85, 90. Need to make it a little bit longer. 95, 100. So this is 5. So that makes this 30. So again, 30, 60, 90, 120, 150, 180, 210. And you have to be careful here. You have a lot of lines, so make sure that you're going slow. 210, 240, 270, 300, 330, 360, 390. Now we're getting kind of tricky. 410. Nope, 420, 450, 480, and then 510, 540, and I'm just counting up by 30, so 540, 570, 600. So make sure I have my numbers here, right? 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50. That makes sense that 50% would be 300 because I think it's going to be 600. So 50% is 300. So then now I could then quickly go from 50% to 100%, which would be 600. So 50, 55, 50, 60, 65, 70, 75, 80, 85, 90, 95, 100. Yep, I have one too many boxes. So that tells me that 600 is correct. So how many hives does Joshua have in all? 600 beehives. Of course, there are lots of other ways to solve this as well. Ultimately, I need to be able to see some of your thinking, some examples of what you did, not just the answer, so that I have proof that you had a strategy. I'm going to stop this video now, and there will be a second video to complete the rest of the problems if you would like to check those.